I think you're sleeping. Come back in an hour.
Need sleepy.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calagiore, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in beautiful St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the website. That'll bring you to his place pretty quickly, drooling over the food. www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. That's www.salspizzeria.com. salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. And don't forget, you could call them directly, 912-268-2328, 912-238. Break, time, take two, 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. You can get yourself a free copy. What? Free? Free? Yeah, free. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover and download a copy today. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and clicking on the book club section. That's where you can get a signed copy. Oh, you don't need a signed copy? Well, then no problem. Go to barnesandnoble.com, go to amazon.com. Search Tom Molyneux, Molineaux, and buy it. That's all you got to do. Great fights this past weekend. We're going to be talking about that in a second. Also coming up a little bit later on the show, I got all the fight results. I got a couple of emails to read. We'll start talking about the big fight scheduled for this weekend. Well, I should rephrase that. There are some fights scheduled for this weekend. I don't know how big they're going to be, but it's going to be tough to come in and compete with or put on a better fight than what we witnessed this past weekend between Carl Frampton and Leo Santa Cruz. As a matter of fact, there was some really good fights this weekend. Tevin Farmer put on a great display of his boxing skill. What a performance he did to upset his opponent. And also, along the same lines, we had some other great fights, like Tony Harrison getting back in winning form. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, this week's Blast from the Past features former world champion and boxing Hall of Famer Floyd Patterson. Yeah, Floyd Patterson. The best Floyd ever. Floyd Patterson. Also scheduled to join us, Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard, to give his thoughts. One thing I want to mention real quick, the Jets, the Jets, Jets. Football season's right around the corner. As a matter of fact, this weekend is the Hall of Fame game, and there was a lot of talk all offseason about the Jets needing to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, since I've been away from the show here, that deal has been done. I think it's a big mistake for the New York Jets. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is worth $12 million. I don't even think he's worth $5 million for 1 year. We saw, I say we because I'm a diehard Jet fan, we saw the real Ryan Fitzpatrick in the last game of the season, the game that mattered for the Jets. He choked. He didn't throw an interception. He didn't have a bad game. He had an awful game. He threw 3 interceptions, and he choked. All I could say, Jet Nation, is this. The Jets will regret given Ryan Fitzpatrick this money, he will not perform even near what he performed last year. And my prediction is at least some point through the beginning of the season, will not go to the halfway point, but sometime before the halfway point, Ryan Fitzpatrick will be benched and Geno Smith will take over. Not that it's going to do much better, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was a big mistake for the Jets. He clearly was looking for the money, and the Jets were foolish to give it to him. They have no running back that they really should be able to count on, and that's where that money should have went, to pick up another guy because their running back, Matt Forte, will never make the season. He hasn't even made a full practice yet, so big mistake for the Jets. For all you Jet fans like myself, get ready for another disappointing season. I'm sick over it. I'm sick. It's time to talk some boxing. Joining me right now is Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, Sal?
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
What are you talking to me in a
Echo
vacuum?
chamber.
Yeah, you're in the echo chamber again.
Okay.
I see.
I'll keep it down.
Yeah.
It's an empty room. I'm
Yeah.
in my studio.
That's what it sounds like. Big fights this weekend. We'll get to them in a second. Did you get a chance to see the Carl Frampton Leo Santa Cruz fight?
Oh, I sure did. And let me tell you something. This was, as you know, my kind of fight. This is the style that I love to watch and love to fight myself. And this was a classic. Ebb and flow, staying in a pocket and let the guns fire and, use your defense, roll your head, keep your hands up where you can. But boy, I'll tell you, you had two warriors out here, one not having to look for the other.
The truth of the matter is I think that kind of fight is what boxing's all about, Sal. And the thing is that, the brainwash, smokescreen BS that has been shoved down a lot of young fight fans' throats, trying to say that the sweet science consists of, somebody sticking in. What are you doing, Sal? It sounds like you're stapling things together and all kinds of stuff.
Don't get me started, because I'm going to talk a little bit about something else too, a little later maybe.
Well,
about what I witnessed last night.
Well, that's good. Hold on one sec, but back to the fight. I mean, the thing is that I believe that the sweet science is exactly what we saw against Leo Santa Cruz fighting Carl Frampton, and the reason why I say that is because the sweet science is supposed to be hit and not get hit, but be in position to hit again. And I believe that Carl Frampton displayed beautiful counterpunching ability, seeing a weakness or a flaw, I should say, in Leo Santa Cruz, keeping himself open and leaving the path for a counterpunching, which Carl Frampton took advantage of. He did display hand speed, punching accuracy, and defense. And his defense, like you said, was avoiding the punches, but he didn't have to run across the ring in order to do it. I loved the fight, and I hope that a lot of fight fans can agree that is the sweet science. These are the kinds of fights, Sal, that the sport of boxing needs in order to maintain a fan base for long term. These boring fights that people try to convince you that are the sweet science, it just doesn't hold fans long term.
No, I agree with you, and this is exactly the kind of fighting that, like I said, is my style. This is what I love, and as you said, this was a beautiful display of the sweet science. These guys stood in a pocket. They looked to counter each other. They looked to be offensive. They looked to block. They looked to slip. They looked to move, and they didn't, like I said, they didn't have to find each other. They were right there for each other to look and trade, and it was a great fight. Great fight. Definitely a candidate thus far for the fight of the year.
Well, I said this last week. I said this will be the fight of the year.
You did.
And I'll tell you what, when you look at the two top fights that, in my opinion, for fight of the year candidate here at the midway point of 2016, the reason why I believe that the Carl Frampton and Leo Santa Cruz fight edges out Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, is because the action it stayed for the whole 12 rounds. There was, you were on the edge of your feet. And don't get me wrong, not that we weren't for Sean Porter against Keith Thurman. It just seemed like I don't know. It just seemed like this fight had a little more excitement, and that's a matter of opinion, I guess. But I don't know. I think that they're both very close. I wouldn't even be mad if at this point, from what we've seen thus far, that it was split between the two. But if it were my vote, I edge out Carl Frampton versus Leo Santa Cruz as of now for Fight of the Year. What do you think?
I concur. And, not taken away from the fight with Thurman, but I'll tell you what, Porter and Thurman was a great fight. We watched it, and it was fantastic. And again, it was full of action. These guys wanted it. They brought it to the table. They let it all hang out. They weren't afraid. But this one, just for some reason, just seemed a little more special. And like I said, I'm excited about a lot of things, Billy. And you got Al Heyman doing these kind of fights, and again, you had the Barclays Stadium showcasing these kind of world-class fights. I mean, it's an exciting time. I hope it resurrects a lot of the interest in boxing when they have matches like this. And who knows? Maybe the Barclay in Brooklyn is going to be the new Madison Square Garden of the 2000s. Who knows? I don't know.
I tell you what, that's a great point, because the Barclays Center has been really. Bidding enough to bring these big fights to Brooklyn, and the fans are coming out. The house was packed, and well, the thing is that normally, unless you have a Puerto Rican fighter like Miguel Cotto in New York, or you have a local kid, it's tough to bring in the fans. But the Barclays Center has been doing very well. I mean, considering that Carl Frampton's from the other side of the pond and Leo Santa Cruz is from nowhere near New York. They both had a strong following. The undercard did feature two Brooklyn fighters in Paulie Malignaggi and Gabe Brissario, but I don't think the majority of the fans were there to see Paulie Malignaggi. I think they were there to see the main event, and they got treated to a good one. Very, very optimistic. I'm very optimistic about the Barclays Center taking over the sport at this point. The excitement. One of the things that I could feel even from watching on TV was the excitement level that was going on. But England fighters always bring that, Sal. They're always singing and chanting and drinking. I mean, they're a fun crowd to watch fights. That's why I always say that seeing a fight in the UK is something special.
Yes, I know. They get into it. They get behind their fighter. They support them. And as you said, they chant. They have the little music. They do the whole thing. And, it brings another dimension. And like I said, it's exciting when we can showcase it here. And as you said, the Barclays System Theater here, stadium, was a happy medium. You had a fighter from the West Coast. You had a fighter from the East Pond, over the pond. And this was a great medium. It was a sellout crowd. It was just fantastic. Great setting. Yeah, the great co-feature, as you know, and everything was great. It was a great night of fighting, and like I said, I'm optimistic. I'm very excited about what we're seeing at the Barclays System out of Brooklyn.
And one other thing, when you take a look at Carl Frampton, what I mean, listen, I've been a fan of Carl Frampton, but as you know, coming off a lackluster performance against Scott Quigg, which you've gone.
Oh, I know that fight inside out.
Yeah, I know you do. And the truth of the matter is that going from a lackluster performance like that, in which he was criticized, to step up in weight and take on the top guy, and then win on U.S. soil in a fight that was nothing less than total excitement for 12 rounds. To me, Sal, that's what proves that you're the best. When you're willing to fight the best out of your comfort zone, out of your little home, cocoon or whatever, that is what defines great fighters. And a fighter in Carl Frampton who was willing to stand in the pocket and fight the fight that Leo Santa Cruz usually controls, was even more impressive. I can't tell you how much of a fan I've become of Carl Frampton after this fight.
No, and myself as well. I saw him against Quigg, and Bill, I'm going to say something, and cut me off or stop me if I'm wrong, and it's nothing that can be said differently. But even in a Quake fight, when Quake was coming on the last 12 in a round or so, I always just reflect back and I say, wow, what if this fight was going to go to 15 rounds? Now, it's not going to happen. It's a hypothetical that you don't even go. But even with this fight, did Santa Cruz start too late in the end? Because I thought he won the 11th pretty convincingly. But, there again, where are the real championship rounds today? Not taken away from any of these fights. I'm a big Frampton fan. He's great. But I just ask that hypothesis all the time.
Yeah, it's a good point because a lot of these fighters clearly fade in the 11th and 12th round.
Been in 13, 14, 15.
Well, I'm saying if they had to go 13, 14, 15, a lot of these results, I think you're right. Santa Cruz did seem like he had a little more fuel in the tank. Listen, my big thing, and you and I talked briefly yesterday, my big thing about Santa Cruz, and don't get me wrong, I picked Santa Cruz. I got the loss.
You're a big fan
I know.
of Santa Cruz.
I am.
I know that.
Huge fan of Santa Cruz. And, listen, if you go back and watch his fights, from the time he busted onto the scene in a couple of other lower weight classes, you don't see that little hitch he's got, moving his right. He's twisting his right. It's a habit. I even watched when the camera followed him to the corner, he was still doing it. It's a habit that he's developed, okay? And whether he's had it since day one and it's just been more magnified now or not, I don't know. But I do know this. I do know that it's very noticeable in his fight. And whether he's doing it purposely, whether he doesn't even realize he's doing it, which I assume, it's hurting him. And the reason why I say this, Sal, is why he's twitching that hand. When he's ready to deliver a punch, he can't be delivering a punch when he's in the middle of a twitch. So that split second that he's got to get his hand back in the right position to throw a punch, Carl Frampton was able to counterpunch him. And I think that it lost him the fight. I really do. You look at little things. Sometimes you say, well, he was fighting off the back foot. He couldn't fight off the back foot, or he's leaning forward too much, or he's punching off to the side, or whatever you see, from the TV in slow motion that obviously the fighters don't get to see. I saw this. I saw that twitch in his hand really ruined it. It prevented him from letting his hands go immediately, like when you're, like a reaction type of a thing. It's almost like his hand had to stop, then he released his punch, but Carl Frampton had already been there with his.
Exactly. Unless you're releasing it from the movement, I don't know whether he's using it or developing it as something to distract his fighters or his opponents, I think. I have no idea, but I do recognize and I do see what you're talking about. And I do think you have some credence there with that statement.
Well, when you see fighters do it, you're right. When I first saw him doing it, I thought that maybe it was a distraction thing he was trying to do, and have the fighters wondering when it's going to come. But when I saw him walking back to the corner doing it and sitting in the corner while he's getting instructions doing it, now you know that it's a habit, it's a twitch. He doesn't even know what's happening, But
well, that's a great point, Bill.
Yeah.
And only as a true gentleman like yourself being able to observe that and pick that. That's exactly it.
Hey.
If he was doing it just in the ring during a 3-minute period, that's one thing. But if he's doing it on his stool and coming back, that's a twitchy habit that he's got to lose.
Well, hopefully he's not doing it when he's taking a leak, because that'll be a messy situation. But anyway, let me read some emails. I got a couple points from our man Jesse. And Jesse says, hey, Billy C., I love the Carl versus Leo Santa Cruz fight, but I had it 8-4 for Leo Santa Cruz. Rounds 11 and 12 were tough to score, but Leo was busier and landed the cleaner punches. I could have had it a tie, though, but it was hard, some of those rounds. I would love to see a rematch, or if not, Carl versus Valdez, even though Valdez might not be ready for a guy like Selby or Walters. Leo versus Walters, Selby or Mares, or the Mares versus Cuellar winner. Leo threw wide shots at the beginning, and that's why he missed a lot. He needs to move his head more and be light on his feet. Those are some other good points. from Jesse. He says, I think Orozco has to step up his level. Maybe Jeff Horn, Sammy Algieri, Spence Jr., or Carl Maniucci. I'm not going to argue there. We'll get to Antonio Orozco's win here in a second. He says, Billy C., what's your thoughts on Luis Neri's win and his skills? I thought it was impressive. I think his skill set is solid, and I was impressed to see him beat a talented fighter in Sanchez. So that's a good one. Jesse also asks, I loved Mikey Garcia's performance against a low-tier opponent, but Elio just didn't want to fight that much. You did see some mistakes on Mikey. He didn't keep his gloves close to his chins, put his hands forward, didn't move his head. I'd like to see him fight against guys like Terry Flanagan. That would be an exciting fight. Rancis Barthélemy, or if he goes to 140, then maybe a Burns or Postal. Well, I don't know if I agree totally with Jesse on Mikey's performance. I thought that Mikey Garcia, in my opinion, I don't think you got to see that fight yet, Sal, but the Mikey Garcia fight.
I saw most of it, and correct me if I'm wrong. That was his return after about a 2.5 year layoff.
2.5 years. Now, when was the last time you saw a fighter that looked so sharp after a 2.5 year layoff? I mean, he was saying to the press, "There's no such thing as ring rust for me," and I believe him. He looked. I love that. I mean, he's solid. You talk about technique by the book. You open up the How to Box book, and you're going to see the stance Mikey Garcia uses. You're going to see the defense he uses. You're going to see him cutting off the ring the way he does. And as far as Elio Rojas and not being a low-tier opponent, Jesse, no disrespect to you, but you have no idea what you're talking about if you think that Rojas was a low-tier opponent. This is a former world champion, and this is a guy, although he stepped up in weight for this fight, and although he hasn't been that busy himself in the last 2 or 3 years, this was clearly not a low-tier fighter for Mikey Garcia. So with all due respect, I disagree with you there, Jesse. But anyway, thanks for the emails. Let's talk about these fights real quick, Sal. Let's get the results here. Like we're talking about, Carl Frampton dethrones Leo Santa Cruz in a soon. Listen, if it's not already, people are going to be referring to this fight as a classic. I guarantee you there will be a rematch, because why shouldn't there be? When you see great fights like this one and the Sean Porter Keith Thurman fight, which is also neck and neck, in my opinion, with the Frampton Leo Santa Cruz fight as Fight of the Year for 2016. Of course, we should see a rematch, and that should be it. I've never seen Leo Santa Cruz get stunned the way he did with the Carl Frampton fight. I mean, he just got caught with a short, sharp shot, and those short, sharp shots, Sal, that's what power comes. I mean, you can go back to Phantom Punch from Muhammad Ali against my man Sonny Liston. It was a short, compacted punch. A lot of people didn't even see it. They call it the Phantom Punch. Rocky Marciano used to deliver short, sharp punches. Sugar Ray Robinson, short, sharp punches. I mean, that's where a lot of power comes from. And I think Carl Frampton showed Leo that he's got some pop, too.
Absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And he proved that. And, let's not forget, Carl Frampton was coming up from 122. Sure, it's only 4 pounds difference to 126, but, he probably had a smaller frame. I think he did than Santa Cruz, and maybe Santa Cruz thought he was going to be able to muscle him. Maybe Santa Cruz thought he was going to be able to take it to him. I don't think Santa Cruz expected what he got from Frampton.
No.
But either way,
no.
It was a great fight.
And I agree. I think that he thought that he was going to muscle him. He was bigger. He's stronger. The guy was moving up. He saw footage of Carl Frampton hit the deck a couple of times the last time he was in the States. Listen, Santa Cruz is always prepared. He's always in shape. But there was a lot of other things going on around the camp of Santa Cruz, not to make an excuse, but I think he quite honestly overlooked Carl Frampton a little bit. Nonetheless, Frampton stays undefeated. He's 23-0 now with 14 knockouts. Santa Cruz loses for the first time in his career. He's now 32 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 18 coming by knockout. It did go the distance in front of almost 10,000 people at the Barclays Center. The way the judges scored it, one had it even, 114, which, by the way,
Italian judge.
But I wouldn't have argued that either. I mean, it was a close fight. Depending upon the view, that judge may not have seen a lot of the defense and head movement that Carl Frampton was displaying. So Leo Santa Cruz obviously throws a lot of punches. He probably scored the volume of punches more so than the accuracy. The other two judges had it 117, 111, and 116, 112, respectively. Personally, my scorecard was 115, 113 in favor of Carl Frampton. I, too, thought it was a close fight. Those early rounds dictated who was going to win the fight, and apparently on the judges' scorecards, they all felt that Frampton had the edge. At the end of the fight, Carl Frampton said, "I don't know what to say. I don't think it's sunk in yet. I wanted to win. It was the toughest fight of my career. I think I hurt him in the second round. Once I hit him hard, he backed off. I don't think there's a rematch clause, but I don't know. I would love to take him to Belfast." There is Lee Selby and Gary Russell here, too. I hope...
That's interesting.
What, that he didn't know if there was a rematch clause?
No, that if they go to Belfast, I'd like to see that, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, now he's got the title. So whoever's going to fight him has to fight him at home. This is the other thing I love about Carl Frampton, and any fighter that has the balls to go and fight somebody in their backyard, so to speak, when all the so-called edges are in your opponent's favor. That's my big criticism with some of these fighters. I won't mention a specific fighter by name who never fights outside of his comfort zone. How can you be the best if you don't? If you never prove that you can, overcome obstacles? Carl Frampton proved that he could. He's up there. He's gained a lot of respect. I'm not listen. Slow it down. I'm not calling him the best ever or even close. But right now, he's at the top of that division that Leo Santa Cruz was at. So anyway, at the end of the fight, Leo Santa Cruz said it was a great fight. It was a tough fight. It could have gone either way. I don't take anything away from Frampton. We just want to have a rematch. I want a rematch in either L.A. or Belfast. All I'm thinking about now is a rematch against Carl Frampton. Hopefully we get it. When you have fighters that want rematches, even the worst promoters have to give it to them. At the end of the day, make no mistake, the fighter decides who he fights, and all this BS. Well, my manager's—that's just a fighter. That doesn't. That's a smokescreen, 100%.
That's a smokescreen, man. I love when I hear a fighter. Who was it? Or just recently in the press saying, "Well, let my manager decide."
They all say it. They all hide behind it. Deontay Wilder's pounds on his chest, says he's the best.
There it goes.
He pounds on his chest. I'm the best heavyweight. I'm the best heavyweight.
You said it.
Yeah, I'm the best heavyweight. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. Who are you going to fight next? Well, geez, that's not my decision. I'll fight another cupcake. You bum. But anyway, in other fights on that great card out of the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, after returning from over 2.5 years, Mikey Garcia didn't miss a beat. He improved to 35-0 with 27 knockouts when he scored a fifth-round stoppage over Elio Rojas. Rojas hit the canvas a couple of times. As a matter of fact, 4. 2 in round 3 and 2 in round 5. The official time was 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Garcia, listen, my opinion in a nutshell about Mikey Garcia, I've always loved this kid. Talk about technically sound. You're not going to get more technically sound than Mikey Garcia. If you open up a textbook, How to Fight, Mikey Garcia's stance and delivery of punches and defensive, success is all going to be in there. What a great performance after 2.5 years. My hat's off to Mikey Garcia and the rest of his team. In another really good fight, which I was a little shocked at the outcome, Tony Harrison, in what was billed as an IBF junior middleweight title elimination fight, improved to 24-1 when he scored a 9th-round stoppage over Sergey Rabinchenko, who was clearly the favorite in this fight. Harrison took care of Rabinchenko with a right hand in the 9th round, and Art McCanty just waved it off at 1 minute and 18 seconds. Rabinchenko basically told him he didn't want to continue. Tony Harrison, what a performance. Now, this was a different style of boxing than what we saw in the Frampton Santa Cruz. For a lot of fans out there that have, drank the Kool-Aid and believe all the bullshit that gets tossed their way about what the definition of sweet science is, Tony Harrison won the fight by running and jabbing and sticking and moving. But here's the difference. He moved in for the kill when he could. He took that chance. Rabinchenko is a hard-hitting fighter. He does have 20 knockouts under his belt. And Tony Harrison did what he had to do to get his 20th knockout. Hats off to Tony Harrison and his performance. It was a good one. Also, Paulie Malignaggi fought Gabe Brisaro and won a 10-round decision. The way the judges scored it, 96-94, 98-92 twice. Paulie Malignaggi improves to 35-7 with 7 big knockouts. And Gabe Brisaro, he drops to 24-2 with 5 big knockouts. Obviously, no one was getting knocked out in that fight. But Paulie Malignaggi, hopefully he's finished. I certainly don't want to see him again. In another fight that displayed skill, in my opinion, from Philly in the lightweight division, hopefully still in the lightweight division, Tevin Farmer moved up in weight to take on Ivan Reddick, who was supposed to beat him. And Tevin Farmer, they kept saying, Ivan Redgach is Reddick or Redgach is much bigger, much stronger, much this. And I'm going, are they watching the same friggin' fight? I'm watching Tevin Farmer, although he was shorter, looked bigger and more muscular. He was faster, more fluid. He landed the harder punches. Tevin Farmer basically put on a clinic to beat Ivan Reddick to improve 21-4 with 1 draw and 5 knockouts. Redgach or Reddick or Redgach drops to 9 wins, 1 loss, and a draw. 99-89, 98-90 twice with a way to 3. Judges scored it, and oh, by the way, that included a point deduction for Tevin Farmer for hitting low below the belt. A couple of notes on this card I want to mention. We're always criticizing referees for mistakes that they make, but I want to point out that referee Harvey Dock in the main event, the Carl Frampton Santa Cruz fight, did a fantastic job. I don't want to see referees, breaking up fighters when they're fighting inside. Harvey Dock let these guys fight, and the end result was a great fight. I mean, this was a guy that was doing his job. He was a referee. He maintained order. He let the fighters fight. You didn't hear his name mentioned one time during the fight, Harvey Dock. And to me, that's a definition of a great refereeing job. And my hat's off to Harvey Dock, because when the referees do a good job, we benefit with a good fight. These referees that get too much involved sometimes prevent a good fight from happening. And credit what credit's due has to go to Ed Mercanti Jr., who I've been very critical over in the past. I thought he was very solid in the Tevin Farmer Ivan Reddick fight, which traditionally Art McCanty Jr. likes to be over powerful with his position as a referee. And although the Farmer Reddick fight was a tough one to referee, I thought that Mercanti Jr. did a fine job. Now, the referee for the Garcia Rojas fight, referee Ed Claudio, this is the example of terrible refereeing, and I'll tell you why. In the pre-fight instructions, Claudio, because both fighters speak Spanish, was given the instructions in Spanish. And now, I'm not fluid in Spanish, but he was saying something along the lines of, we went over the rules in the dressing room, I want a clean fight, this is below the belt, this is below the belt, blah, blah, blah. Good luck to both of you. Now, this is all in Spanish, And as the fighters turn away and the microphone's ready to turn away, he grabs the microphone almost as sadly as Joe Cortez does it to get his line in. And Claudio goes, let's get popping, man. Whoa. Why did he have to throw that in? It's these referees that want the limelight in front of the mic that makes me friggin' sick. There was no reason for Ed Claudio to throw that, let's get popping, man. I mean, come on. That's bullshit. And I can't stand it. And, oh, by the way, he didn't even do a great job. He looks like he should lay off the buffets and the donuts. He couldn't move around in there, and that's a whole nother issue sometimes, Sal. When referees can't move in the ring, they're not doing the fighters any justice, are they?
No, not at all. And, you made some great points and valid points, sure. And I'll tell you, it is. When a referee tries to put himself above the fighters as being part of the show instead of part of the support, then, you have a little bit of a difference in conflict of interest. And, I don't go for that at all.
No, I can't stand when the referees act like it's they're the event, But some other fights this weekend. Antonio Orozco improved to 25-0 with 16 knockouts when he scored a 10-round decision over Abner Lopez. Lopez drops to 25-6. Lopez felt that he was robbed. I was robbed. The way the judges scored it, 97-93, 99-91 twice, all in favor of Orozco. Although HBO had to score 95-95, which doesn't mean anything. I love you, Harold, but your scores don't count. Orozco is being rumored to face Terrence Crawford in the near future. Jojo Diaz improved to 21-0 with 12 knockouts when he scored a second-round stoppage over Victor Proa, who drops to 28-2, 1 minute and 7 seconds. Jojo Diaz, big win for him with his 12th knockout. Luke Campbell improved to 14-1 with 11 knockouts despite hitting the canvas in the second round when he won a 12-round unanimous decision over the tough and former world champion Argenis Mendez, who drops to 23-5-1. The way the judges scored it, 116-111, 117-110, and 115-112, all in favor of Luke Campbell. Also on that card, featherweight Josh Warrington improved to 24-0 with 5 knockouts when he scored a 9th-round stoppage over Patrick Hyland, who drops to 31-3. And Dillian White stayed busy, beating previously unbeaten David Allen to improve to 18-1 with 14 knockouts. David Allen drops to 9 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. The way the scores were 100-91, 100-90, and 99-91, all in favor of Dillian White. Also, some fights from this past weekend. Friday night, Stevenson improved to 28-1 with 23 knockouts when he scored a 4th-round KO over Thomas Williams Jr. In Canada. The official time was 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Stevenson, like I said, improves to 28-1, and Williams loses for the second time in his career. I will say this. Adonis Stevenson's performance, be as it may, against a guy that really didn't have the championship experience that you'd like to see in a fighter fighting, a world champion, I thought was a great performance. I give Adonis Stevenson a lot of credit. He came out seemingly with a purpose. Looked like he was totally prepared, and put on, in my opinion, a great performance. And so much so that if he was able to perform like that against a Sergey Kovalev or an Andre Ward or somebody that's kind of relevant to the division he fights in, he would be very competitive and successful. I give a lot of credit to Adonis Stevenson. Great performance for him. Also on that card, Ilder Alvarez improved to 20-0 when he won a 10-round decision over Robert Berridge, who drops to 27-5, 99, 90, 98, 92 twice. Alvarez is the guy that's supposed to fight Stevenson next. He should have made quick work of Berridge if he really wanted it to gain the support of people outside of Canada. As you know, Berridge was a late replacement for Chad Dawson. So we'll see what happens there. And also in the middleweight division, Emmanuel Alim improved to 16-0 with a draw when he and Demond Nicholson, who improved to 17-1 fought to an 8-round draw. It was a correct decision. I mean, this fight was really close. 77-75, and two had it even at 76-76 to give that one a draw. All in all, some pretty decent fights this weekend, Sal.
Like I said, it's very encouraging, Bill. I'm very optimistic with some of the things we just saw this past weekend. But not to get off track, Bill, but you forgot one very important fight that I have to talk about.
I don't want to talk about that fight. Yeah, if you're talking about what happened in Queens,
you know where I'm going.
If you're talking about the late rally, if you're talking about that late round rally by that New York team in Queens, no.
The Yankees beat the Mets in extra innings.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's the one.
The Mets are in some trouble. Yankees did a fire sale, and I agree with the experts.
They did.
But you know what? I agree with the experts that the Yankees are, maybe not going to be in a playoff run this year. Neither are the Mets, by the way. But I think that the Yankees did some smart moves. And all I can say about Yankees to the Yankee fans is wait till the offseason. I think you're going to see some big moves. And the biggest move that people thought are thinking that's going to happen is they're going to get Sal from the or Sale, not Sal, from the White Sox.
Hey, you can't have a sale without Sal.
That's right.
Get it?
But
the SAL behind after with the E to follow.
I get it.
Forget it. Where am I going?
But that was a good one. But I tell you, we got some interesting stuff. We're talking about the Frampton fight with Leo Santa Cruz, which I absolutely loved. But it added to some more drama. Talk about competition. Even though we have a plethora of world champions out there, Sal, if you only take the top four sanctioning bodies, WBO and the WBC and the IBF and the WBA, out of those top four, the British boxing scene is dominating with the most world titleists. They have 14 among those 14 sanctioning bodies. And the USA, who most people look at as the dominating force in boxing, only have 11. And then Mexico's the third with 9, which is kind of surprising. You would have thought that the Ukraine and some of these other countries that we see, they would have been up there. But no, the top three in order, the Brits, USA, and Mexico. But some of the USA champions are, questionable, like Deontay Wilder, Daniel Jacobs. Both Charlo brothers are champions. Danny Garcia, he's a legit champ. Thurman's a legit champ. Jesse Vargas, he kind of got treated to his. Terrence Crawford, a legit champ. Jason Sosha, I'm not sure. Gary Russell, I'm not sure. Rasheed Warren, these are all guys that were maneuvered in the spot. When you look at the UK champions, Kell Brook obviously won his. Tony Bellew, you could argue that he was positioned. Ricky Burns, he's a multi-division champ. Anthony Crolla, he earned his. James DeGale, he earned his. Terry Flanagan, Carl Frampton, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Lee Haskins, Jamie McDonald, Liam Smith, Lee Selby, they all earned it pretty hard. And Billy Joe Saunders, well, he got a layup for his too. So interesting stats there. What do you think of the Brits passing the U.S. with world champions in the top four sanctioning bodies?
Well, you and I heard it from you months ago, how you predicted or you said, how the UK is kind of leading the field and all the excitement and all the big champions as far as, these guys aren't afraid to rise to the occasion. They're not afraid to challenge who's in the best in the class. You said it right there. And you were 100% right with the 14 titles that they hold over the U.S. and Mexico. It's pretty impressive. And not that we're far behind, but, it's good to know that we across the pond and us over here, we are the two division leaders as far as the titles. I think it's pretty neat. And you got the four sanctioning bodies, which are all very credible.
Yeah, but the problem is that you got these guys that, in my opinion, and no disrespect to the Charlo brothers or Wilder or
No.
Jacobs, these are guys that were maneuvered and basically the sanctioning bodies were paid off to give them a shot against an obscure opponent for the title, and they win. Now, Deontay Wilder, he did beat the WBC champion in Berman Stavern, but again, I always look at that fight now as a Monday morning armchair quarterback, as that wasn't that great of a win over a guy whose biggest wins were over Chris Arreola, who we saw where he's at. Now, no disrespect to Deontay Wilder, because he does bring some excitement, but he needs to fight a top dog, so to speak, in the heavyweight division. And, these sanctioning bodies, whether it's the fighter's fault, the promoter's fault, the manager's fault, or more realistic, the sanctioning body's fault for giving these fighters opportunities to fight for titles against their easier opponent. And that's, how many world champions would we have if these guys fought each other and fought unification fights? Where would they all be? Would they be here in the States? Would they be in England? Would they be in Mexico? Where?
I would love to see that, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to have that come true. But then, you never know. I'd love to see, in my dream book, I'd love to see those four sanctioning bodies try to unify a champion in each weight class. But that would be a hell of a tournament.
Yeah, well, there's a way to do it if the greed factor would just step aside. But and speaking of middleweights. Did we speak of middleweights? Let me rephrase that. Let's speak a little about middleweights.
Let's talk about middleweights, Bill.
Well, I had mentioned him as one of the U.S. champions, but Danny Jacobs, the WBA regular champion, and that's what they define him as, the regular middleweight champion. Because
wait. They said the regular?
Yeah, because the real
like
champion, the real champion is Triple G. But anyway, and he's the super champion for the WBA, and the WBA is ordering a fight between Triple G and Jacobs, but Daniel Jacobs has chosen to fight a rematch with Sergio Mora. If you recall, Sergio Mora twisted his ankle, couldn't continue, and Daniel Jacobs pounded on his chest saying he's the best middleweight, and chose to pick him versus any other live, breathing body, and that fight's going to take place, the rematch, on September 9th in Pennsylvania. And the co-main event is going to be a good one, actually. Robert Easter, not to be confused with Robert Christmas or New Year's, but Robert Easter will be fighting Richard Comedy. Both of these fighters are undefeated in the lightweight division, and they will be fighting for the IBF version of the lightweight title, also on that card as the co-main event on September 9th. So a couple of good fights still coming up, man.
I'm excited about it, Bill. Like I said, it's a turn a page and let's see what we can reveal, and so we'll see what we can find. I think this is a much better feel of what the future boxing is about than where you and I were talking 3 months ago about the state of boxing. So, like I said, I'm very optimistic. There's some good fights and good potential fights, and I think let the fighters rise to the occasion. Let them go out there, let them do it, and let's lead by example.
Speaking of real fighters fighting real fights and taking risks, the Triple G Kell Brook press tour to promote their big fight that's taking place September 10th in England at the O2 Arena had their stop over the weekend in London. And, Kell Brook, who's the challenger, who's moving up in weight, who he's, and again, we got to look at all these fighters, other than United States fighters. All these other fighters from other countries are the guys that I look at and say, wow, this is the example of real fighters. And by the way, the UK fighters have a lot of domestic rivalries, and they fight the big fights, and they don't, cherry pick, it seems. They don't let fights marinate longer and longer until the fighters are collecting Social Security. I mean, these guys make the fights happen, and as an end result, the fighters' values have went up. Their championship totals have gone up. It works. It's a great formula. And Kell Brooks said, and this kind of backs up what I'm saying, Sal, and you're going to love this quote. He says, now, granted, these guys have been probably saying the same thing at the different stops, but here he is in front of his home town, so to speak, in London, and he says, this is the biggest fight in the world of boxing. He says, I'm so excited. I'm the best welterweight in the world, and no one wants to fight me. He, meaning Triple G, is the best middleweight in the world. No one wants to fight him. I'll be his size on the night of the fight, and I'm bringing my speed to that division. To be the best, you have to beat the best. I'm going to be sharp and powerful on fight night. No one has got the best out of me before, but Triple G will bring it out in me, and I'm excited to see that from myself. I always find a way to win, and there's going to be a massive drama in this fight. It doesn't get better than this, and I'm doing this for the fans that have wanted me to step up and show them what Kell Brook can really do, and I want to prove I'm among the elite in the sport. Sal, how else can you prove that you're the best? By doing what he's doing. You can't prove you're the best by pounding on your chest and telling people that you're the best.
Bill, and this is why this fight come September 10th is going to be one that's anticipated. I mean, I just love it. I just love what he said. And you know what? He's willing to step in the ring with another undefeated champion, bigger than he is, just like Frampton did against Cruz tonight, this weekend. But I love the attitude. I love what he's saying. He borrowed the quotes, and he just lives the quotes. To be the best, you got to beat the best. That's the old school. That's the old mentality. That's the old warrior. And you know what? God bless these fighters, and that's great. May they be always spared permanent harm and hurt, but injury. But I'll tell you what, I love when they put it out there and they rise to the occasion and they do what they're supposed to do: fight to win.
And challenge themselves. And I love the line when he says, "No one has got the best out of me before, but Triple G will bring that out in me, and I'm excited to see that from myself." So he listen, he's not bullshitting, Sal. And
no,
the truth,
that's sincere. That's from the heart. I mean,
yeah,
Bill, just look at that. Let's dissect what he just said. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, that is crystalline. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Well, the truth of the matter is a lot of times when you're in the heat of battle, and you're digging deep, the term digging deep, that's pretty much when you find a piece of yourself that maybe you didn't even know was in there. And sometimes when you find that piece, especially in the boxing game, it's something that it becomes a tidal wave that you ride for the rest of your career. I mean, these fighters that have had to peel themselves off the canvas and dig deep and perform to a degree where even they didn't think, that's when all of a sudden, we've said it many times, once you win a title, you kind of step up your game a little bit, and so does this. I mean, Larry Holmes comes to mind when he was fighting Ernie Shavers, where he's pretty much, everybody thought they killed him, that Ernie Shavers killed him, and he twitches and gets up, as was told by Ernie Shavers many times. And the rest is history, and Larry Holmes, one of the all-time greats. So, yeah, something has to bring the best out of you sometimes, right?
Well, and that what you just said. I love when they rise to the occasion. I love when they got to pull from the reserves. I love when that is the defining moment in a fighter's life. And, it's so beautiful. It really brings it out. And, I just reminisced about when I fought down in Tennessee, and you look at some of these fights today, and when you see a fighter challenging himself or bringing the best out of himself, it was great. And when I fought a 10-round main event down there, Don Turner was in my corner. He trained me, and when after the fight, Don Turner lifted me up. He said, "Sal, now you're a world-class 10-round fighter." Main event fighter. I said, "Wow, thanks, Don." And that was it.
Triple G, his comments out of London was, "I'm very excited and happy to be here. I'm excited to perform in front of the UK fans. Kell Brook has my full respect, and he's got a great team behind him. it's not easy for us to get opponents. He's ready for me, and I'm ready for him. I will bring a big, big show to London, and the fans are going to love it. Kell Brook is the biggest test to me. He's a great champion. He's moving up in weight, but great fighters have done that and won, so I know he's a great boxer, and he will test me the most. This guy always seems to say, he always seems to say the right stuff, doesn't he?
Both these fighters. I don't know if they have anybody writing the scripts for them, but I'm telling you what, this is what fighting is about. This is beautiful. I think both these guys, these are champions. These guys are thoroughbreds. They're a rarity. They are elitists, and they're going to put it on the line, and they're going to give what the fight fans want, and that's the best they can bring.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. No doubt. I personally think Triple G is going to win the fight. I think he's going to stop Kell Brook, but I thought that Sean Porter was going to stop Kell Brook too, and we'll see. I always say, and I have been saying for a while, that Triple G, is the best ring general in boxing, and has been the best ring general for quite a while, but at least the last 25 years, and it'll be interesting to see a guy who can move around and be effective moving around, and in Kell Brook, to see how Triple G controls that action. But the style of Carl Frampton against Leo Santa Cruz in this fight this past weekend, to me, the bottom line is what boxing's all about. This is the sweet science. If you didn't see the fight, please go and find a copy of it and watch it, because don't be misled by people who try to tell you that the sweet science is a fighter that throws a punch or two and then backs away and is dancing around his opponent and just hitting him with a punch or two here and there. Muhammad Ali did it. He got away with it. And one of the reasons is he was a big guy, and most up until Muhammad Ali, big guys like him didn't have that athleticism. Sugar Ray Robinson, he had it, but he also fought in the pocket, similar to Sugar Ray Leonard. Real, great fighters. The sweet science is fighters that fight in the pocket, can move around. They use their feet, their head, their waist. They can move and avoid punches when they're 2 inches in front of you. That's the sweet science. Carl Frampton displayed that against Leo Santa Cruz on Saturday night, Sal.
Well, and that's exactly it, man. You just said it right there. They stayed in a pocket. He slipped the punches. He blocked some punches. He dished out some punches. They were there to counter each other. It was. I mean, half that fight they could have fought in a phone booth, and it was that good. And they were there, and they were beautifully. It looked so just beautiful, orchestrated, just timed. Not quite synchronized swimming, but it was beautiful. It was a great display. They rose to the occasion, and both these fighters put it on the table, and they just let it all hang out. And the better man won that night. I'd be excited to see a rematch, just like I would with the Keith Thurman, Sean Porter.
It's going to be interesting to see, what the PBC series, which, did the Adonis Stevenson fight. And, I was really listening to some of the terminologies that the commentators and so on and so forth were using. And, I remember I said a couple of weeks ago that the PBC, their target audience is basically for the short term. And, I'm always blaming them.
You did say that, Bill.
Well, I think that some of the comments that were made back that up. Like, for example, during the Adonis Stevenson fight, there was at one point one of the commentators said the PBC, they referred to the BBC almost like it was separate. The PBC fans and all boxing fans, really, was the way it was said. It was said the PBC boxing fans and all boxing fans, really. Again, they're trying to divide the fan base. And boxing is a niche sport anyway. Sports are niche, is a niche in life. And then boxing is a niche within a niche. And the truth of the matter is, is that, and I'm not saying itch, I'm saying niche, Sal. But the truth.
I was gonna say, wait,
scratch it, scratch that niche. But anyway,
I said niche.
Hey, and I'll tell you what, I can't stand a niche. Oh, wait a minute, that's a snitch.
Who's writing your material?
That's
I
a snitch, not a niche. But anyway, the truth of the matter is that the fight boxing needs to be, not divided. It needs to be united, not divided. And the PBC, although we're finally getting some decent matchups, and I think it's because of force. I really would like to see them not separate themselves, and I think they need to step it up with trying to retain fans for the long term, not just these short term fans, which are going to lose interest in some of these fights. Let's face it. No disrespect to fighters that like to box, the stick and move style. If they're not exciting, people are not going to continue to watch them. Tony Harrison was exciting. Tevin Farmer, they were exciting this past weekend, but they could have easily used those styles, and the end result could have been wins, but not exciting wins, which hurts the sport. True,
Exactly.
I mean, in the long run. But anyway, I thought that overall we had a good Friday and Saturday worth of fights, and I'm loving the Carl Frampton win. Even though I got it wrong, I picked Leo Santa Cruz. I love Leo Santa Cruz. I think he's going to be back.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
And I do think that there should be a rematch. These big fights, Sal. The ones that are real good, that we want to see a rematch. The promoters have a tendency to give them each another fight in between the rematch. I say no. I say they should go right to the rematch. What do you think?
You know what? I would love that, and that's it. The next fight should be the rematch. It would be beautiful. It would be beautiful to see that, and not have somebody step in first to spoil it, because we have in our minds what we just saw, and now let's see if we can mirror it, or see if there was another outcome that could be done over the course of time. It's like a lot of fighters, they don't want a rematch because they figure they got their number, or they figure they have something. But the fighters that win sometimes don't want a rematch. But like give the guy a second chance was the old school. But when you see two fighters that do want to get back in the ring together, I'd say let's let it lock and load and roll it right now. Don't wait too long.
Well, I think that if it's a fight that's not competitive, why have a rematch?
True.
But if it's a competitive fight, yeah, you have a rematch. And the old saying, well, let them each earn a paycheck and build up the interest in the fight, give them each a so-called tune-up fight. Well, even though a so-called tune-up fight might not be a tough fight, on paper, you never know what can happen in this game. Sal, unintentional headbutt, opens up a cut that prevents the rematch for a couple months. Now you got the scar tissue there. You got the weak skin points on either side of the scar, and that could become a factor in the rematch fight. So why wait? Both of these guys came out with a couple of bumps and bruises, but nothing that serious. I mean, Carl Frampton was in the Irish pub in New York City, boozing it up with his Irish fan base that followed him over. I mean, that was impressive. Out of 10,000 fans, they say there were almost half were there from England. At least 4,000 anyway from England,
Man,
which is
that's
good,
incredible.
Huh? It is. That is.
I just have one question though. We got to have a trivia. Did we ever find out, is Carl Frampton related to Peter Frampton?
No. 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 I don't know. You and your Wawa box. But anyway, hey, listen, don't forget, tomorrow we're going to be doing a blast from the past. It's going to feature Floyd Patterson, one of the great
class
fighters. He was a class act, and I had the luxury of meeting him one time, and I've told the story, but I'll tell it again tomorrow. It was kind of a funny first meeting, and ended up getting into the sport after that, but we'll talk about that a little bit late tomorrow. Also, Larry Hazard is scheduled to join us tomorrow with his thoughts. We'll get his thoughts on these great fights from this past weekend. And speaking of weekend, this weekend we have the comeback, so to speak, the fight that's supposed to land us the fight that we all really want. Andre Ward is taking on Alexander Brand, which should not be a competitive fight, but nonetheless, it is on HBO. And should Andre Ward, which we all think will get past Alexander Brand, that sets up the showdown between he and Sergey Kovalev in the fall. So we'll be looking at that fight. I just find that one interesting, Sal, that HBO turned down Alexander Brand when Andre Ward was supposed to fight his last fight, and now all of a sudden Alexander Brand, without any additional fights, is approved for this one. It just seems a little strange, you know?
Well, stranger things have happened, but usually along that line.
Exactly. So, hey, listen, we do have a short week this week. We will be here tomorrow. Thursday, maybe not. I won't know until tomorrow, but we'll definitely be here Friday. So right now we're scheduled for tomorrow and Friday, and it looks like Thursday as well, but unfortunately I can't let everyone know until tomorrow. I do have an announcement that I want to make, but as soon as we can, and if we are going to make it, I will make it ASAP, so I will let you guys know on that. And just to follow up, we expect the phone lines to be open on Friday, so make sure you get your questions, comments, or concerns ready. And as usual, you can always email them to me, and I'll read them online. If you take the time to email me, I'll take the time to read them. There is only one topic I will not discuss. You guys all know that. And if you do bring it up, I will respond via the email and tell you nay. Any final thoughts, my man?
Well, I'm just excited about what we have coming up, and I do want to say something, not to be redundant or to retract, but what I meant earlier about my comment about Don Turner in my corner was not to say I was ever in the class or the category of these world-class champions. It was just that I analogized where Kell Brook was coming from, getting the best out of him, make somebody stand up and rise to the occasion. And that was my just retrospective reflection back on that date. But anyway, no way was I in the class of these world champions. They're fantastic.
Let me ask you something just to elaborate on that. Did you were you in your mind, was it a win when he said that in terms of the performance, or are you saying that you kind of found a Sal Rocky Senecola yourself that day? Like I was saying earlier, did you find and meet a Sal Rocky Senecola that you didn't know existed, or was it just the accomplishment of winning that fight that now you made it, according to Don Turner, to a 10 round level fighter? Which was it? Was it a combo of both, or what was it?
No, here's the thing, and that's a very good point. I'm glad we're talking about it. I always knew the fighter inside who I was. I just needed the opponent. I always had the confidence. I always knew, and that's the mentality of a world class fighter too. I felt there was not another guy in my weight that was going to beat me. But the bottom line was, I always knew the fighter that was fighting that night in me was always there. I just needed another fighter to bring that out, to show everybody that who I was and define me on that night. And that's exactly what happened. I knew I was there. I knew I was there to win. I was in a guy's hometown. It was a 10-round war. You've heard of the fight. You've seen the fight. I had 130 stitches, 4 cuts, 2 perforated eardrums, a separated retina. The doctor wanted to stop the fight. I kept going on in his hometown, and I won. Unanimous decision in his hometown. But that was it. I always knew I was capable of doing that. I just needed an opponent that was going to help me rise to that occasion to show everybody else
to bring it out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's kind of like we've always said, great fighters need to challenge themselves and go in with great opponents to be great. Muhammad Ali had the luxury of Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Kenny Norton. I mean, these are the guys that made Muhammad Ali great, and Sugar Ray Leonard had Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler to make him great. I mean, this is my point for all you young boxing fans. It's not about the O. It's about who you beat and how good they are. It's not about just winning and beating up cupcakes. It's about who you're fighting. challenging yourself, fighting in hometowns, like Sal just said he did. Fighting beyond a serious cut. Fighting, getting up off the canvas and winning a fight. This shows heart. This shows determination. This shows champion caliber fighters. That's a lot of what we're lacking today because fighters don't challenge themselves. They're not in there fighting that other tough guy. If there's two guys in the same division, they're parallel. They seem to be equal in skill level. The first thing that you're going to notice in today's sport is they don't fight each other. They move up in a different weight class. They move out. One has one belt, one has another. I mean, that's the way. Cherry pick yourself to the top. Stay undefeated. Make the most money. Don't get hit. Run around. It's all about the fighter. It's not about the sport. And listen, nobody forces anybody to be a professional fighter. But when you do make that decision, guess what comes along with it? It comes along with putting yourself at risk every time you step in the ring, getting right. Those bumps and bruises, challenging yourself. That's the choice you make. No one forces you, but if you're going to do it the right way. Go become a historical piece of the sport. Don't cherry pick your way. Don't smoke screen and try to convince ignorant young fans that don't know any better that you're the best. I mean, you can't do it. These kinds of fighters, the Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Framptons and Keith Thurmans and Sean Porters and even guys like Tevin Farmer and Tony Harrison, who had great performances this past weekend, and even Adonis Stevenson to a degree, who had a great performance, even though he's not challenging himself much. He did put on a good performance against Thomas Williams, who did land some punches. That's what you got to do to be great, Sal.
Billy, that's a perfect script right there. And you are absolutely right. And again, you're looking at a fighter, professional fighter, and I always reflect back, and I said it before, I'll never forget the words that were shared to me by one of my favorite trainers, Chicky Ferrara. He said, "Sal, you're a commodity. You've got a limited time to do what you have to do. The trainers, the promoters, the matchmakers, the managers, we're here forever. We just look for the best ones, and they're going to come and go. But you have a short period of time to make it or break it." And that's so true. So any young fighter starting out there, you got to put it all out on the line, make a statement, rise to the occasion, challenge yourself, get it out there, be the best you can be every day, and don't ever forget, when you look in the mirror, that's the only man you got to answer to and staring back at you right back there, the man in the glass.
Just remember one thing, wherever you go, there you are. So,
hey,
listen.
I like that one too, Billy.
Yeah, wherever you go, there you are. But anyway, hey, listen, don't forget, everybody, tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.
Thank you.